Good morning. I think it's about time to start. Welcome to PRIO and to this breakfast seminar. My name is Kaja Borchgrevink and I'm a researcher here working on this project called Developmental Peace, Perception of China's Engagement in Pakistan and Afghanistan, Asia Peace. Today we have a seminar about Pakistan-China relations in uncertain times, looking into security situation and implications for the collaboration. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, China's investments and development aid are now spread across 140 countries. Although China has traditionally claimed to pursue a foreign policy guided by non-interference, BRI projects are increasingly implemented in countries with high level of conflicts and insecurity. This led Beijing to become a more active part in peace and security activities abroad. China describes its approach as developmental peace, a model of state-led development and economic growth that privileges sovereignty and the legitimacy and stability of the government over political reforms and democratization. But can China maintain this hands-off approach when it engages in countries affected by conflict and internal tensions? In the Asia Peace Project, we examine this. We examine China's developmental peace approach in Pakistan and in Afghanistan, such as the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. We investigate how local stakeholders perceive and respond to China's engagements. As part of this, we have with us today our project partners from Pakistan, from the Pak Institute of Peace Studies, and we have asked them to share with us some insights on this large-scale foreign presence that China brings and how it impacts and is impacted by the conflict dynamics domestically and geopolitically. So we will have three presentations to start off, and then we will have a discussion and Q&A after. So we have with us the director of PIPS, or president of PIPS, Mohammed Amir Rana. He is an expert on counterterrorism, counter-extremism, and regional security. He has worked extensively on issues related to international security, political economy, and regional politics in Pakistan and in its neighboring countries. We also have with us Safdar Hussain. He is a research analyst at PIPS, working on conflict, insecurity, and violence in Pakistan and Afghanistan, regional, political, strategic, and security issues. And we also have with us Hazrat Bilal. He is a data engineer and a project coordinator at the Pak Institute of Peace Studies, and he also works on the media monitoring on our Asia Peace projects. So welcome very much to all of you. We're very happy to have you here at PRIO today. So I will invite you first, Safdar, to please come up. We will first have two presentations by Safdar, then followed by Bilal, and then we will discuss.
Thank you very much, Kaya. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Out of these three presentations, I will briefly discuss the first two presentations, and one of them is related to terrorism trends in Pakistan in current and past year, and second will be mainly on local perceptions from one of the provinces where the CPEC projects and especially the Gwadar post is situated. So in last year, there has been a 70% increase in the number of terrorist incidents inside Pakistan. And in those incidents, we see there has been increase in fatalities as well, that is 23%. If we see these trends on the slide, you see that there had been a declining trend starting from 2015. So those were the years, preceding year 2014, when Pakistan started very comprehensive counter-terrorism campaign in parts of the country, especially former FATA, we call tribal areas, and in Karachi. Since then, there had been a declining trend, but that trend couldn't sustain beyond 2021. So that's the year when Afghan Taliban took power in Kabul, and since then, that trend has reversed. And last year, 521 terrorist attacks happened, which caused 852 deaths. So out of these 522 attacks, about 335 were perpetrated by religiously motivated terrorist groups like Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and Islamic State Khorasan, etc. And 175 attacks were carried out by different Baloch insurgents, and 11 attacks were sectarian related. Geographical distribution of these attacks is not uniform across the country. If you see this map, this is map of Pakistan. So most of the colored region you see, these are the regions where some terrorist attacks with different variancy happened. So most of those attacks happened in the western flank of Pakistan. This is the region that borders on Afghanistan. And in the north, we see that is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. And towards south, it is Balochistan province. So red color and brown red color are the regions where most of the attacks within certain regions happened. And those are mainly in northern region, it is south of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And if we come in Balochistan, there are a few regions, mainly the Kech and Quetta. Major terrorist groups that have been active recently in Pakistan in terms of the terrorist operations are three major terrorist organizations. As I mentioned earlier, one is Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Over 90% of terrorist violence that happened in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, TTP was behind that. And sorry, I think it is the next slide. Yeah, I see differently, it is displayed differently. Sorry. So key terrorism trends in Pakistan in 2024. Geographical focus, 95% of terrorist violence, as I showed in that map, has been in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan provinces, which are on the western side of Pakistan bordering Afghanistan. Secondly, there has been an increased number of cross-border incursions. There were 25 major clashes and incursions, which caused 143 fatalities. Similarly, sectarian violence was very pronounced in few parts of the country, Khurram district in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and 234 people were killed in 24 incidents. So militants mainly have been targeting security forces. Over 60% attacks in the country in last year, they were directed against security forces and law enforcement personnel. Similarly, civilians, CPEC projects, and Chinese nationals and other targets were hit in these attacks. TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Balochistan Liberation Army, and Islamic State Khorasan. These were three key actors of instability and terrorist violence in the country in 2024. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan carried out 192 attacks. Most of these attacks, 165, were concentrated in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, and some, about 14, were in Balochistan. Balochistan Liberation Army, that's a leading Baloch separatist group. It was responsible for 109 attacks, and most of these attacks, with the exception of 2 attacks in Karachi, all these attacks were concentrated in Balochistan province. Islamic State Khorasan has been active in certain parts, mainly in Bajod district in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and some parts of Balochistan, including Mastung and Khalat. So these three groups are mainly the groups which have been threatening China-Pakistan economic corridor and Chinese engagement within Pakistan as well. More pronounced actor that has been very vocal and targeting Chinese interest is among the Baloch insurgents is BLA, and mainly it targets the CPEC projects, Chinese national as well as non-Baloch workers. TTP and its affiliates, although they don't claim attacks on CPEC and Chinese interest and nationals, but there is evidence that they were found involved in certain attacks on Chinese interest and nationals. And one example is March 2024 Bisham attack that is in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that killed 5 Chinese engineers. Islamic State is also very much vocal on media and its propaganda campaign against Chinese interest within Pakistan and in Afghanistan, but it recently hasn't conducted any major terrorist attack on Chinese interest in Pakistan, although some such attacks have been reported from Afghanistan. So in different regions, threats to CPEC and to Chinese interests have been different. In Punjab, the situation is fairly better, and only in parts of South Punjab there is low-level threat. In Sindh, Sindhi and Baloch insurgent groups pose medium to high level of threat, mainly in Karachi, but not in other parts of Sindh. But in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we see that the south of KP, where I highlighted, there had been many terrorist attacks, and that is a key node of these corridors, western and central alignments. We see that there is a lot of terrorist activity, and these areas remain highly vulnerable to terrorist violence. But the region which is very critical for the CPEC and Chinese engagement, that is Balochistan, mainly the southern Balochistan, where also the main Gwadar port lies, that is part of this CPEC project. Similarly, the Pashtun belt of Balochistan recently has seen an increased militant activity, and that is the region where Western CPEC alignment is located, but that has not been operational to the extent compared to central and eastern alignments of the CPEC. The state responses to terrorism and CPEC security mostly have been kinetic, and there has been very few efforts to engage politically different stakeholders and actors. So when terrorist violence has increased in recent years, so similarly corresponding increase in counter-terrorism operation has also been witnessed. And that is evident from last year's operations, military operations and operations by the police, the counter-terrorism departments, that 66% increase in militant fatalities was observed last year. Apart from kinetic actions, there has been different federal and provincial arrangements, those also related to security arrangements. For instance, there is a special security division that is dedicated force for CPEC security, and different provinces, mainly Sindh and Punjab, have special protection units. These are mainly the police units, counter-terrorism departments. Thirdly, we have very comprehensive security infrastructure in the country, and different military, paramilitary, and civilian law enforcement agencies have been conducting surveillance and counter-terrorism operations in different parts of the country. At the same level, we see there has been an enhanced security and intelligence cooperation between Pakistan and China. And recently, after Bisham attack that happened in Kohistan region of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, different provinces had different provincial security protocols for Chinese engineers and workers, so that they are not vulnerable to terrorist attacks. Some Chinese companies also have first corridor of personal security personnel. So there are different challenges in countering terrorism in Pakistan. As I mentioned earlier, that this is mainly the kinetic approach which has been pursued in Pakistan. First of all, there has been little effort to address the socio-economic grievances of the people of the region where mainly the CPEC and other Chinese engagement have been happening. The Baloch resentment over resource exploitation and lack of CPEC benefits is very genuine, but there have not been efforts to address that. Similarly, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, resentment against the security agencies and their operations is increasing. Regional instability is another factor, and Pakistan so far has not been able to engage Afghanistan government, the Taliban government, to evolve some counter-terrorism and border security mechanisms. Overall, the state-society relations and the social contract has been weakening due to governance crisis in the country. So that makes it very difficult to engage community for the government as well as for the security forces to conduct effective counter-terrorism operations within the country. Border security is also part of that larger Pakistan's policy pursuits to establish good relations with the neighboring countries. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, this approach has been imbalanced approach where only kinetic actions have taken priority in countering terrorism policies, and no soft approaches or political approaches have been inculcated in this larger campaign. Thank you very much. This was the first slide. And the second slide is mainly from Balochistan, the local perceptions of the Balochistan province, where the main projects of CPEC are located, and also Gwadar Port is located. So this is basically analysis of some interviews we conducted in this province very recently. So I have just tried to analyze those interviews and responses we collected through empirical interviews with different resource persons within the province. So first of all, what we have observed from this empirical data, there has been a disconnect between CPEC or Chinese strategic priorities within the province and the local development needs. Most resource persons we interviewed, they emphasized that Balochistan's development remains secondary. Projects lack local employment opportunities and benefits accrue to federal and provincial elites or external actors, mainly China. But official accounts display a more pragmatic approach, claiming that CPEC and Gwadar are the needs of the Baloch people. So how this CPEC has been interacting with conflict in Balochistan or Balochistan's insurgency. First of all, the heightened military presence and presence of different paramilitary and other forces to protect Chinese engineers and workers has intensified local tensions within the province. Baloch insurgents target Chinese projects as symbols of exploitation. So when these attacks have increased, the state's counter-terrorism operations have also increased, as we saw earlier. So this cycle of violence has been perpetuating overall instability within the province, and it not only is undermining CPEC's economic promises, but it also hinders further foreign direct investment within the province and within the country. There has been perceived sense of marginalization and exploitation within the province because the securitization of development reflects a flawed security development nexus, and militarization alienates communities, making them more vulnerable to insurgents' narratives of oppression. The economic and political constraints, which also necessitate certain needs, certain policy measures to be taken, First of all, there is a need for sustainable and equitable development within this CPEC framework, or the engagements of Chinese other non-CPEC projects as well. There is a need to address corruption and inefficiency within the province, and also there is a need of equitable distribution of projects and revenues. CPEC's loan structures, most of the resource persons said that these loan structures favor Chinese investors. So CPEC's economic model risks entrenching dependency. Politically, centralized decision-making exacerbates center-periphery tensions, reflecting Pakistan's broader struggle within the federalism framework. There has been some grassroots agency within the province that is mainly linked to the CPEC. I'm not mentioning the other social resistance movements here. And that was Haq Do Tehreek in Gwadar region, where is the Gwadar port. And it forced concessions on water access and fishing rights, demonstrating grassroots efficacy. But the problem is there has been a tokenistic representation of Baloch people within the provincial and federal governments, and those people who are in the parliament now, in the provincial parliament, most of the Baloch people think they are not their true representatives because there were not free and fair elections within the province. And thirdly, there has been ongoing co-optation of leaders who show some resistance, and we see that this Haq Do Tehreek I mentioned at the top, you see the leader who started this Tehreek, Maulana Hidayatul Rahman, he has been absorbed into federal orchestrated structures, and it reveals the fragility of resistance because he is no more active on that front. Some resource persons also drew some comparisons between different projects by other countries or other companies from other countries compared to Chinese engagement and projects. For instance, there is one project, Recodic, going on. There is some Canadian firm that is implementing that project, and the resource person said that this is better than Chinese project, local perception is better. Key difference is improved community engagement by this Chinese company. Similarly, some refer to Gwadar Fish Harbour that was being managed by one Belgian firm, B6, from 1988 to 92. Later, it was taken up by Chinese firm, and they said that there were fair wages and better corporate social responsibility in that project. When we see CPEC, most of the resource persons were of the view that Chinese companies, local people are skeptic and they resist the Chinese companies. The reason is that there are limited local benefits and there are a lot of security concerns. So divergent perceptions of foreign projects highlight the role of corporate social responsibility in mitigating resistance. While Western firms are not immune to criticism, their relative transparency and community involvement offer lessons for BRI stakeholders, including for CPEC. So if we try to infer or draw some theoretical and policy implications from these empirical data, from feedback from the local people, we see that while realistic perspectives, those are the power and security, explain Pak-China geostrategic cooperation, CPEC's so-called exclusive practices and debt dynamics align with dependency theory, positioning China as a neo-colonial actor. And there is obviously a human security paradigm, and there is a need to redirect focus from state security to local livelihoods, because that could mitigate alienation and violence within the province. There is also need to strengthen decentralized governance and empowering provincial governments and integrating local stakeholders in planning may enhance project legitimacy. And as we discussed earlier, that CSR can reduce friction, though systemic inequities require broader reforms. Further recommendations which we are also considering for the next phase of fieldwork within the province, we are thinking that there is a need to document grassroots movements Like there is a Baloch Jagjati committee, Maharang Baloch is leading that. Similarly, youth organizations are active to explore agency and resistance strategies within the province. Similarly, gendered impacts, environmental costs, and views of non-state actors, etc., warrant further exploration. And finally, comparative BRI case studies would be helpful, especially examining BRI projects in other regions like Africa, Southeast Asia, to identify patterns of local resistance or acceptance. So this is all from me. Further, we can see during question and answer session about what I said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Safdar Hussain. Then I would like to invite you, Bilal, Hasrat Bilal, to give some insights from our media monitoring.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Hasrat Bilal, and I'm a data analyst with Park Institute for Peace Studies. The project we have to see how China is perceived in the country, it's not that good. It's not that easy to get the sentiment of the general public about the things that is going on, particularly a country which it is said that it is a best friend, and the sentiment changes when you have something like a project or there is a financial insensitive in a thing. So the perception about a person or a country changes when there is involvement of resources. So for that purpose, we need to see the sentiment of the people in Pakistan. But the main medium to see sentiment about anything, it's social media. Because the mainstream media, you don't have that many voices. It is a structured thing. The mainstream media, they might report news, events, and things, but you don't get to know about the sentiment of the general people. The sentiment you are getting is most of the government. So for that purpose, we go into social media to further monitor that what people think about each and every aspect and the things going on in the project that is CPEC and Pakistan relationship with China. But social media monitoring in Pakistan, it's not that easy task to do, because there are some restriction from the government and there are some sanctions, or you say there is some blockages of social media platforms like Twitter and other. In Pakistan, most of people, it's not the country that it's without internet or social media. It's a country where a lot of people use social media, and it's and people are very vocal on social media, but that comes with a price in Pakistan. Pakistan's social media role is not only that people use and go have fun and entertainment, as many countries, is also a platform for expression and also in many cases a catalyst for change, as I have mentioned it here. But there are some frameworks that regulate Pakistan, legal framework that make Pakistan, that monitor Pakistan, which allow many things that we see on social media, and they're regulated constantly, that what is there you can say and what you can't say. And it's very hard in many cases that the things you share could be counted as fake news or news which could hurt the sentiment of the organization, and you can get in trouble in Pakistan. There is government restrictions on many platforms, including the most popular platform, X in Pakistan, which makes it difficult for our job to get the sentiment of many things, as we are doing. To get the sentiment of people, you have to go social media, monitor them for an event, what's going on, what's happened. And to get there, it is important that you get the sentiment. But if the platform is blocked, it is hard to get information from. In Pakistan, yes, there are other platforms we can go to, like Facebook, and the most famous is TikTok, YouTube. You can use this. But if you want to get the sentiment of general people, of the locals, of academia, or the people with knowledge, your preferred choice is usually X, and that is why it is restricted by the government and you can't use it in Pakistan. In Pakistan, if you want to use the social media platform that is X, you must use a VPN in order to access it, or a proxy to access it. But the government is doing more and more to restrict its uses, like they have purchased firewall from China, and then it went again. Now they have given an order that everyone who is registering, who is using VPN should register with the government authorities to know what they are using for. So it is making more and more difficult for monitoring, or it's basically, you are right that you can say what you want on social media. So it's again, it has a lot of impact, not only on the freedom of expressions, but it has an economic losses and reduce transparencies. We have recommendation for the balanced approach of social media, like amendment in the PECA Act. PECA is the act that the government have brought in for Pakistan to regulate the social media, and we need to increase transparency and promote literacy. Thank you so much. That will be all for me today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bilal, for showing us how difficult it is to actually do what we are planning to do, to gain the perceptions, but also, more importantly, how this affect the kind of public debate and the opportunities to communicate about both positive and more negative sentiments towards these policies.